guys, welcome to my channel. I am Maria, aka Agape Love Girl. Thank you so much for joining me today. But today I'm back with another video all about brands that have never really interested me. I did this video a couple weeks back and you guys seem to really enjoy it. And I mentioned in that video that I might have some more brands on this list that I just couldn't quite think of. And after I had put that video up, there were definitely some more brands to add to this list, and so I thought I would do it again. Additionally, this is a collab video with my friend Lauren here on YouTube. We've done some collabs before in the past. She is awesome. I think you guys would love her channel, but she left a comment on my last video saying that she would love to do a video like this, and I said, well, I have more to add to this list. I plan on doing another one. Do you want to just go ahead and collab? And she was all for it, so here we are. So after you check out my video, be sure to go head on over to Lauren's channel and check out her video. Let her know that I sent ya. Her links will be in the description box, so you'll be able to find her easily that way. And if you are new here from Lauren's channel, I just want to say hello, thank you for coming over, and welcome to my channel. I do hope you enjoy. Alright, I do have a list here on my phone. I'm going to try to go through it somewhat quickly, but hopefully just enough so you guys still kind of get an idea. Also, I just want to make a disclaimer really quick. I forgot to say this. I said this in my first video, but this video is not meant to be mean. It's not meant to be about drama. It is nothing against these brands. Like, if they're great brands and brands you love, like, feel free to sway me the other way. In my last video, I mentioned that I wasn't into Pacifica. There was a brand that just never interested me. It looked boring and cheap to me, and so many people like said that I definitely need to check out their skincare, that they kind of agreed with me about the makeup, but that they had skincare that was amazing, and that intrigued me and really changed my opinion, and now I am interested and I'm very curious to try their skincare products. So you know, you might disagree with me, and that's totally okay. This is nothing against these brands. They're just brands that, for whatever reason, which I will talk about, have not interested me. So let's move past my disclaimer now and let's get into it. So the first one it actually happens to be one that had a little bit of drama recently, and that is Beauty Blender. And the funny thing is that when they came out with the foundation, I will say that at first it was a little bit interesting to me. I was like, oh, I kind of want to try it, but then they got into the whole drama of you know, the shade range and all that kind of stuff, and I was just like, ooh, that's kind of a tough one. I do realize that that there was like a statement made about the owner being Latina, and she really wanted to cater to you know, the Latina community and their skin shades, because it's so hard to find, and I could attest to this, being that I'm Mexican, but to find shades that match you well if you have like a warm or olive undertone, which I do, and it is true. So, and it's funny because I didn't know that the owner was Latina, or the founder person of Beauty Blender was Latina. I think that's really cool. But anyways, besides that, Beauty Blender has never really interested me, mostly, you know, for their beauty blenders. So prior to the foundation, it is not a brand that interested me whatsoever because of the price, really. Now, you guys know, you've probably seen me use a lot, if you've seen my videos, that I love makeup sponges. I think makeup sponges are awesome, totally revolutionary, totally give credit to Beauty Blender for coming out with that. But the idea of spending $20 for a makeup sponge when there are so many out there that are very affordable and work amazingly just was never interested in me. Like, I don't work that way. So and then also I will say that I happened to purchase, this was years ago, I purchased a Sephora favorites set. I can't remember what the set was, but in the set included a beauty blender. I didn't actually want it for the beauty blender, but there were other things in it, but it just happened to come with the beauty blender, and I was like, this is really cool. So I'll get to try the famous beauty blender and see what the fuss is all about. Is it really better than the Real Technique sponge? Is it better than these other sponges? And I will tell you, I tried it and I did not like it. And I feel like I'm in such a minority here. People will say like, oh yeah, Real Techniques is good. There's other beauty sponges that are good, but nothing beats the Beauty Blender. And for me, I was just like, no, I don't like it. I don't know. I feel like there's something about it that just seemed too porous almost. Not that it absorbed makeup too much, but just the way it laid makeup on my skin, not a fan. I don't know what it is. No, I don't like it. Also, I'm not a fan of the egg shape so much. I really like the shape of the Real Techniques one, and the one I use the most often is actually from Beauty Junkies, but it has the same shape as the Real Techniques one, where it's almost like the egg shape, but it has like a flat side. I love that shape. So so Beauty Blender is definitely my list of a brand that just doesn't interest me. I'm not interested in spending a lot of money on a sponge for my makeup. Okay, I know that was kind of a longer thing for Beauty Blender, but I promise I'm going to try to keep the rest of them brief. Okay, the next on my list might be a shock, but MAC has... Okay, I'm going to say this. It hasn't interested me in a long time. I will say when I first got into the beauty community and doing beauty stuff, and realizing there was this beauty community and beauty YouTubers, back in the day, this is like 4 or 5 years ago, it was like MAC and I think like Sigma were like the brands to have. Maybe there were other ones, but I feel like if you did makeup on YouTube or online, MAC was like the brand to have. It was like the standard. During that time, yes, I feel like I was interested, not necessarily like, oh my god, there's this specific stuff I wanted. It was just only because like that's kind of like what you strive to have was MAC products. And so for that reason, I was like excited about MAC. Not ever in the sense that I felt like I really wanted to purchase anything. So that's why I feel like this is, I could truly say it's not a brand that interested me. I never felt like the desire to purchase anything. I feel like I have a hair on my lip from this brand, but it was kind of like if you had MAC, you just felt cool. You felt special. Like it was just like the brand. So I have some MAC products and have received MAC products, but I've never purchased MAC products. So I've received MAC products in like makeup swaps and things like that, and I've always been super grateful and excited to receive them just because it's MAC. But as far as like wanting to purchase anything from MAC, I've never really been interested in wanting to purchase anything over MAC, and so that's where this comes from. I just feel like especially now, and it probably is because now there's just so many other brands, and I don't want to sit here and say like MAC's not popular anymore, MAC's not a staple anymore. I think there's a lot of people who are still die hard for MAC, and it's a great brand. But there's just so many others that it's kind of like it just doesn't interest me. For a long time, I felt like they were coming out with like launch after launch after launch after launch of new stuff, and everybody would get so excited and had to purchase it, but it's always limited edition. It was always like crazy pretty packaging, but really truly when I thought about it, like, you know, are you going to purchase anything? And I always think like, no, I'm not going to, because it never pulled me enough to be like I have to or want to purchase something or one of the items from these collections. I just have never felt that need. But again, like I said, that doesn't mean they're bad products, doesn't mean I wouldn't like them if I had them. It just means I've never felt interested enough to want to purchase with my own money. So that's where that comes from. All right, next up on my list is NARS, and I think this is another kind of brand that kind of is a back in the day brand that was super popular. Everyone liked the NARS Orgasm Blush, and that was like a whole huge thing for a long time. And again, it's not that I think their products would probably be bad. I'm sure they're great. I don't feel like I hear a lot of people talking about them that much, except for like classics, certain classics like the concealer, I think Radiant Concealer or something I've heard great things about. But there's really nothing about the brand that kind of like pulls me into it that makes me feel interested in trying it. It's never really, I guess, caught my attention. Okay, next up is a similar brand. Now this is a brand that I have tried products from and have liked. I've tried their priming spray, the primer spray, and I really like it actually. I've bought it and purchased it twice, but once I ran out the second time I never repurchased because I was like, I don't know, I'm not super into primers, so I kind of was like, I don't know, it's expensive, and I just felt like almost, I don't know, it was a waste, even though I feel like it worked really well, and I do feel like it helped keep my makeup on longer, and it just felt refreshing. I don't know, but I just kind of got over it, I guess, and overspending that amount of money for it. I've also tried a palette from them a long time ago. I think I might even have a tutorial with one of their palettes on my channel many years ago, and I actually really loved that palette. I thought it was beautiful, but aside from that, it's just, again, another brand like NARS that just never really caught my attention enough to want to go out and buy something from them. So like, like I said, I'm probably going to keep saying it's not that I think the products are bad or wouldn't appreciate them if I had them. I would probably enjoy them, but it's nothing that's made me want to go out and spend my own money on them. So that's where I'm kind of going in the sense of not being interested, brands that haven't interested me, because it's nothing that I've looked at and been like, I need to buy this. So while I think they have some cool things, their palettes look beautiful, if I had received them as a gift or in PR or something, I would probably enjoy them and use them. But at this point, they don't interest me enough to be like, I need to go out and purchase something from them. Okay, this next one, I'm kind of actually a little bit nervous to say, because I feel like you're not allowed to not like this brand, or you're not allowed to say anything bad about this brand. And I don't really understand why. I mean, I kind of understand why, but I kind of like don't. I just feel like not everybody has to like a brand just because it's done something amazing. You know what I mean? Like, I get it. I get why it's so like amazing to some people, and I think that's great. But at the same time, like, don't come for people just because they don't like products from this brand or they're not interested in this brand. You know what I'm saying? So with that, the brand is Fenty Beauty, and nothing has really caught my attention from them. Again, same thing with like NARS and Smashbox. Nothing that they've released has really gotten me excited, and I don't know, I just think it's like, it looks like it would be a good brand. I think it's great they came out with so many shades and they cater for so many different skin tones, but there's nothing that I've seen, even review-wise, that made me think like I need to have this in my life. So I just, it's not a brand that gets me excited, and maybe that's because I'm not a woman of color. I don't know. I like Rihanna, but I'm not like a major Riri fan, you know? I don't know. It doesn't get me excited. I don't know. I'm sorry. Next up is the Crayon Case, which I think is like an indie brand or a small business brand. I'm not sure if even a lot of people know about their brand, but I think at first they had this kind of cool thing going for them where they like came out with a palette that was literally like called the Crayon palette or Crayon palette. And it basically just had shades like that were the color of crayons, and that was interesting. But when I saw it, I was like, I instantly remember seeing that and I was like, oh, that's cool, but I don't want it. Like so many people I remember being really excited about, like, oh my god, this palette has such vibrant colors, like it has a legit red, a legit blue, a legit yellow, and I think they're like matte shades. And while I was like, okay, that's great, but at the same time I was like, I'm not getting it. I don't need that. I don't want that. I don't know. And I think they do have other things that are like crayon, whatever, themed. And I think that's cute and cool, but I don't know. To me, I just found it, when I looked at it, boring and basic. And maybe that sounds mean, but I just am like, I don't know. I don't really get the hype unless it's just for the nostalgia of crayons, like when you're a kid. And not that I'm against nostalgia and buying things for that reason, because there's plenty of things that I would buy or want to buy for that reason. This just isn't one of them. Also, and these opinions that I just said prior to this have nothing to do with this specifically, but I do remember seeing something happen, and I was kind of glad that my opinion on the brand and the products was that I felt that it was boring and that I didn't get anything from it, because later on it came out that there was some issues with Jen of Jen Loves Reviews, and she did a whole video on it about how they don't take criticism well and how they weren't happy with her video, even though she kind of just had some questions and stuff like that, and it kind of like really put them in a bad light, in my opinion. Now I know it can be hard because I work for brands. I know how it can feel to have criticism that seems harsh, or even just constructive criticism, and you want to take offense sometimes to them because you know the products that they put out are like their babies, and you're really excited. So when someone says something negative about them, it's hard. But as a brand, you cannot lash out at influencers or people who give a negative review. You have to understand that not everybody's gonna like your product, and you have to be okay with that. Like, yes, it might hurt, but you cannot be unprofessional as a brand. And I just found that their response and the way they handled things was very, very unprofessional. And for me, I was just like, oh, I'm so glad that I didn't purchase them and that I wasn't interested in this brand, because that was a huge, huge turnoff. You have to be very professional when it comes to being a brand, and you cannot let your emotions and your feelings come in the way of being professional. So anyways, that's just kind of like a random tangent. That's not the reason why I'm not interested in this brand. It's just that it's kind of like another step in being like glad that I wasn't, you know, interested in this brand. So anyways, moving on to some drugstore brands, and the first one is Almay. And this one, I put notes. It says, it just seems, oh, there's two of them. So these kind of go hand in hand. So Almay and Revlon. It's funny, is anybody else, like when you hear those names like Almay and Revlon, do you think of them almost as the same brand? Obviously they're not, they're different brands, but when I think of Almay and Revlon, I could totally confuse them in like not think anything of it. They, to me, are like the same brand. So what I wrote was drugstore brands that are boring or seem like they are for a more mature generation. So that's kind of what I think about Almay and Revlon. They don't really come out with anything like revolutionary. I think Revlon came out with like the similar to like MAC, the like pizza cutter eyeliners, and was trying to be revolutionary that way and trying to like step up and be a little more hip. I think they brought on like certain spokesmodels like what's her name, Ashley something, she's like a plus size model who's a freaking babe and awesome, to try to be more relevant, but it's just not really working. I don't know, it just like I said, it just seemed kind of boring to me. Do they probably have good products? Yes, I'm sure the products are great, but a lot of the products, especially from Revlon too, are just like expensive too, and I'm just like, why? Like, is this really that good to be this expensive? Like, no, you know, so I don't know. And I don't mean like they are for a mature generation, like that's a bad thing. I'm 34. I feel like I'm creeping up into the mature generation, but I'm thinking mature as in like 50s, 60s kind of age, like someone who's in that age range rather than someone who's, you know, 20 to 30 or even 40. So I don't know. Yeah. So next up, another brand is Neutrogena, and I don't think they have do they have a lot of makeup? I feel like they're more known for their skincare stuff, which I'm sure their skincare stuff is good. But as far as like makeup, I don't know. I just find them to be very basic. That's literally what I have in my notes here, very basic. So nothing has really intrigued me and made me think like, oh my God, I need to get this from the drugstore. Like Neutrogena is the awesome drugstore brand. Like it's just basic, boring, nothing that's interested me. And then the next three I'm going to kind of speed through as well are just, the main reason is just that they are just too expensive for me. And again, this goes back to what I said, like if I receive these as a gift, would I love them and use them? Most likely. And would I appreciate them? Heck yes. But did they interest me enough to want to spend that much money on them? No. So that's kind of where I'm coming from. So the brands are Viseart, Natasha Denona, and Pat McGrath. And I don't know, there's something about these three just kind of like similar to Almay and Revlon, where I look at those brands and I can, in a sense, easily like mistake them for each other. Especially, I think I want to say Viseart and Natasha Denona for some reason, because I feel like Pat McGrath does stand out. But Viseart and Natasha Denona, a lot of times I kind of like see their palettes as like the same to me. I'm sure there are very clear differences, but I don't know, it just, because they're so expensive and the palettes just seem kind of like your basic palettes. I don't know, not basic in the way like not good, but just like, you know, they have there's like just matte palettes and there's like a variety of colors, or like, I don't know, one of them, I think it's Natasha Denona, maybe it's Viseart, that just has like colored palettes, like the purple palette and the green palette or whatever. I don't really know a lot. Maybe I should have done more research, but it's just because they don't interest me that I'm like, I don't, you know, whatever. But like I said, they're just kind of like your kind of basic palettes, and they're super expensive. And I do realize that these are probably brands that are more for like makeup artists or professionals, and I'm not that, so it doesn't appeal to me. But I know a lot of people who are influencers or just everyday makeup enthusiasts have these palettes, love these palettes, desire these palettes. But for me, I'm just like, no, I desire to have my $100 and you know, and or have, you know, 2 palettes for the price of one of theirs, or even 3 palettes, or like a whole face. Like you could buy a palette and foundation and a lipstick and stuff for one of their palettes. You know what I mean? That doesn't mean that the quality is not good, and sure, there might be other stuff that's cheaper and not as great quality. I don't know, but at the same time, I'm not interested in it. I'm not interested in spending that much money for an eyeshadow palette, especially, and this is probably just, you know, not just me, because I'm sure there's other people like that, but in my case, I have so much makeup and I have so many palettes. A lot of them don't get used and don't get the love that they deserve. So why am I gonna go and spend like $100 for a palette that I will use only every once in a while? And if I did spend that kind of money on a palette, I would probably want to make sure I used it all the time just to justify the money. But then the rest of my makeup collection would kind of sit and be unused. So that's kind of where I come at from those. And then as for Pat McGrath, I do think her products are pretty. I think a lot of her stuff is very eye-catching in the sense of like, she always has these videos of swatches where it's like the liquid, like, I don't know if you guys remember, if I can find a clip I'll put it in here, but like the liquid gold and liquid silver that they swatched like wet, and it just looked so magical. But you know what's funny is that I feel like a lot of times it reminds me of NBA Cosmetics. And yes, NBA Cosmetics is a brand that I love. You guys know I have worked for them, and I just love them and rave about them. And they're a small business indie brand. They're handmade products. And so you might think like, how does that compare to Pat McGrath? But I swear to you, sometimes I see products like that and I'm like, I know NBA Cosmetics has products similar to that, if not almost exactly the same, but for like a fraction of the cost, like for like 1% of the cost or whatever the math would be, like just so much more affordable. And it's like, why would I spend my money on that when I have products that I feel like are just as good from a brand I love that's very affordable? So I don't know, that's, maybe that seems random, but that's kind of how I feel about Pat McGrath. Her products look pretty, but they're just very expensive. The packaging is kind of crazy with all the glitter or the sequins that always come with it. And I feel like a lot of it is mostly just for like the appeal of being like, I got Pat McGrath, or just the excitement of getting this package full of glitter with makeup in it and stuff like that. I don't know. So it just never really interested me, I guess. And so yeah, that's it. That's my entire list. I think I talked a lot more than I imagined I would. I thought I would kind of speed through these, but still, I hope you guys found this this video and my list interesting. And I would love to hear from you if there are any brands that have never really caught your attention or never really interested you, and I'd love to know why. If any of the brands I mentioned are brands that you love, feel free to share that with me. Tell me if there are any products that are must-haves and that I should totally get or check out, or that I should be interested in. Like, feel free to change my mind. Like, this is a discussion. This is not meant to be negative, so I'm all for hearing what you guys think, or if you agree with me, I'd love to know that as well. So with all that being said, I'm going to end this video. Don't forget to check out Lauren's video. Her link is in the description box, and I just want to thank you so much for watching, and until next time, much love and hugs to you. Bye, beauty babes.